Hey everybody, two Alpha Gals here. I'm Debbie Nichols.
And I'm Candace Mathis, and you're listening to In the Tall Grass, where we're sharing stories of reinvention, resilience, and rediscovering joy.
Whether it's facing Alpha Gal syndrome or any other redefining chapter of life, we all have to learn how to navigate the journey through the tall grass. So here we go. Hey everybody, two Alpha Gals here. We're back talking with Taylor and Bennett on this Fresh Tracks episode of In the Tall Grass. And today we're going to talk with Taylor, our hunter, and Bennett, our outdoorsman, about how to pack safely and how things have changed with Taylor's Alpha Gal diagnosis. So, hey guys, how are ya?
What's up?
Hello.
How are y'all?
Doing good. Ready to get into this for sure. So, Taylor, just to refresh our listeners, you have spent a lot of time in the woods, a lot of time hunting and things. Can you share with us a little bit about how you pack to prep for a trip, how it used to be and how it looks now?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of twofold, right? So I knew I had alpha gal like the last year and a half, but didn't really know how serious it was based on, some allergist kind of recommendations on, what I can do and what I can't do, which were unfortunately all completely wrong. So this will actually be my first full season of like, hey, like this thing can actually kill me. I need to make sure I nail this. So this list is probably going to be a little bit fluctuating. But whenever I used to go out to the ranch or, go on, a couple day hunting trip, I had my bare essentials, right? Like obviously, like I'd always have my water bottles, guns. I'd always bring my coolers, always make sure I had ice. Typically those coolers would be loaded down with, deer meat or, just kind of any sort of stuff I kind of scrounge up from my deep freeze from the season before and just throw in there just because, protein was the thing that kind of lasted the longest time and kind of gave us energy that we needed. As well as just, general granola, stuff of that nature. Obviously would always have my hunting backpack, everything like that. But as far as, packing out of the ordinary, I've been hunting for the last 12, 14 years. So, as far as, really having a stringent list, it was kind of like, all right, make sure you have your guns, make sure you have your bullets, make sure you pack enough hunting clothes based on the weather and the climate that you're going to be going into, along with, boots and shoes. And man, you're pretty much good to go, It was just a matter of, packing the right amount of stuff for the days I was going to be there. That being said, looking at it from a whole new lens, which is the lens that I'm fortunate enough to get to look through it now, you really have to pack down to, you are looking at everything from not only like just, hey, it used to be, I could just bring a water bottle and I could just fill it up, whenever I got a chance to. Well, now it's like, oh man, you need to make sure that you're drinking the right water that's not filtered through bone char. It doesn't have anything in it that can kill you. And it's either, reverse osmosis or spring or distilled and nothing being filtered through an actual, potential bone char filter. So, one thing that I like to do is, and it may not be the most environmentally friendly, but I like grabbing, 2 or 3 32 packs of Ozarka water. Just that way I can have that on that trip, or I'll get a couple of gallon jugs. I can kind of keep it, if we're staying at a camp house or if we're staying at like a tent, that way I can just kind of have that there. So that way I'm not worried about actually drinking the wrong water. A couple more things that I found are pretty helpful. Nuts, they give you really long lasting energy, something I didn't really think about, but trail mix. So kind of dried berries, nuts, turkey jerky, as long as you're being cautious of the ingredients that are in it and making sure you stay away from carrageenan. And there's a lot of other things that go into that, but just staying pretty diligent on that. There are some bars that I've kind of found that are helpful, just little protein bars here and there, but typically there's kind of like your pea protein or your hemp protein. And then just staying away from obviously anything dairy or anything carrageenan or anything related to that. One thing that I found to be helpful is a huge aspect of hunting, right, is being able to like cook over an open fire and, being able to like just essentially go out there and just kind of do it yourself without an oven, without a microwave. So a couple of things that I bring now that I would have never thought to have brought in the past is I like bringing like an extra grill grate, because even if I'm going with my buddies, something you don't think about is like, man, all them boys, or girls, are eating deer sausage, they're eating hamburgers, steaks, whatever it is. And even if they don't eat that on a trip, there's a pretty likely chance that they have eaten on that grill in the past. And I'm not a numbers guy, but I'd say that there's a pretty high likelihood that it was not alpha gal friendly. So I always like to bring my extra grill grate, which I can kind of set to the side. Tinfoil is always a great thing, especially like if you're cooking chicken or something like that. And if they do have something else that's also on the grill, you can kind of keep it away and wrap it up. Extra tongs, extra spatula. That's always a good idea. And then one thing I would say is pretty much crucial for a hunt that's over 24 hours is like a big, good cooler, right? Like a Yeti, Arctic, Coleman, whatever it is, but something that's big that can hold ice for multiple days. And in that, frozen fish, obviously safe turkey, even pre-cooked like chicken or like ground turkey is something that as long as it can just stay cold over the course of 2 to 3 days is awesome. So that cooler, I would say if I had to bring one thing, it would be the cooler and the ice, as long as the food that's in it as well. And then just kind of your basic stuff too. Obviously you'll kind of have your snacks like Oreos are safe, thank God. And some oatmeal, peanut butter is always a big one. Obviously, another thing that's really big is knowing the medicine, right? So having, the Benadryl, the safe Benadryl on hand, the EpiPen on hand, and then whoever you're going with, letting them know, hey, this is what could happen. All my friends, we do a lot of stuff together, so they already kind of know kind of what my do's and don'ts are. But just making them aware of kind of the reaction signs so that they can be ready if something were to happen. But I'd say, making sure you have safe medicine to bring out there just in case, because typically hospitals are pretty far away. And then another thing I didn't even really think about, but when I was thinking about this topic was, you don't really want to come into too much contact, especially if you're cleaning an animal. So having like gloves that actually go up to your shoulders, for if you do have to clean an animal, or a mammal. So those are really, really important. You can get at those at pretty much any camping goods store or any outdoor store. But that's something that, you don't even think about. You always think, hey, got to get your skinning knife. But if you have alpha gal, you don't want to get cut and get some of that blood in there. So having those durable gloves and things of that nature are very, very important. Another thing too, you don't want to get bit by a tick again. So having the DEET, the really good repellent is something that, I've been bit by hundreds of ticks. And I just never really cared. Now I definitely care, but back then I didn't really care. So, having that proper repellent, especially now, is something that's on my top 5 list of, hey man, I got to make sure I have all of this stuff. But really outside of bringing the proper gear, I mean, some of this stuff goes without saying. Obviously, your guns, your glass, your clothing, stuff of that nature that's all going to stay pretty similar. But as far as medicines go, that's something to always include. Obviously, EpiPen. You're going to have your different kinds of food. Obviously, a big cooler that can support, ice for 2 to 3 days. Pre-cooked meals. Obviously, you've got your safe food to go in there. Obviously, your extra utensils that have been completely sterilized. The extra grill grate is a very, very big one for cooking over an extra campfire. Tinfoil. And then also another thing too is like soaps. If you are going to be outside and, you do get a chance to go to a shower, you want to make sure. I'm a big Method guy. So Method is like the only, I'm sure there's more out there, but the only like body wash shampoo that I've kind of found that's, hey, it's completely safe for me. So that's another thing too that I like to bring is make sure I have the proper soaps. So
what an endorsement for Method soaps.
Yeah.
The only soap that I'll use.
The truth.
It sounds like, what I'm hearing you go through this, it sounds like your priorities have changed from your most important things in your pack list, right? Historically, bring a gun. If you don't bring your gun, the trip's not worth it, right? But now it's almost like if that's the thing you forget, you can still go out in the woods and have fun because you've got all your other stuff that has now jumped the list from just your equipment. And I guess that's the shift that you've had to make. But like, how have you incorporated all of those extra things in your checklist to share with your hunting partners so that they can be a part of this journey with you. Like one thing that we always do when we're out fishing is we do a quick check before we go into like the canyons where we might be climbing down on ropes and things like that. Everybody knows which pocket the car keys are in. Everybody knows which pocket in the bag the first aid kits are in, and it stays in that pocket. Like you don't move it around. That way, if something happens, there's everyone knows where to go on your personal body effects, whatever, to get the stuff that you need. So are you incorporating some of that stuff into the group setting now that you're doing this with Alpha Gal, where it's pretty much life or death?
Yeah. That ain't no joke. Absolutely I am. And that's kind of what's funny too, is like my friends will sometimes think of things I didn't even think about. For example, the grill grate, we're all going out there and he's like, hey, by the way, I actually went and picked this up at Academy for you. Like, I was just thinking I don't want to cross contaminate. And I was like, damn, that's really smart. I'm like, I can't believe I didn't think of that, So we always kind of go over, I wouldn't say, it's as formal as I would probably hope for it to be, just because, I'm maybe not always the most organized guy. But that being said, when we go out there, everybody, we do go over this, how to use an EpiPen, right? I think that's first and foremost, if I am having a reaction that's bad enough that I need to go to the hospital, but, we've got a 2-hour drive. Everybody out there that's with us knows how to use an EpiPen. They know where I keep it. I'll always bring a couple of them. I always keep one in my truck. Everyone knows that I keep it just to the right of kind of I guess just to the right of the dashboard. So everyone knows where that is. And I always have one like in my hunting backpack. Everyone knows what pocket that's going to be in. And that's just kind of something that, we'll talk about on the drive up there. And then, the night before the hunt, typically, if we're sitting around the campfire or sitting inside and kind of plotting out, what area of land we're going to attack. We will start to look at like, hey, EpiPen's here, Benadryl, everything like that is in this pocket. So that's kind of something that's been pretty important. And just, especially with the guys, you don't like to think of something bad happening, but if it were to happen, you want everybody to have your back and be able to kind of step up. And that's the beauty of like this whole thing, right? Is like, it gives everybody the opportunity to kind of like step up and like show not only like that they're paying attention, but also like kind of like how much they care about you, right? And so that's a really big thing, and it's awesome. And just a few things that we kind of go over before, but man, everyone, I'm always like blown away by how much people rally around me, and then also like how much additional research they do. It's pretty crazy.
It's impressive. It's impressive, just hearing that, because we need support. We need people that have our backs, especially in a situation like this. And when you're in the backcountry or you're somewhere where medical care is not necessarily accessible, it's even more important. And I would love to know, Taylor, was it hard to have that conversation with this group of friends? They sound so supportive, but was it hard for you to kind of have that initial conversation? Because I know, like, when I'm hearing you talk about the campfire, I'm not a hunter myself, but I would imagine like after the hunt, it's like kind of the gathering place where you share, and just like a great way to end the day. Did the dynamic of all of that change, or like, can you just kind of go through what that looked like from your perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. And really, it shouldn't be this way. But, whenever I'm like, hey guys, like, let's look at this EpiPen. Let me go over the instructions on how to use it. Let me, let's talk about like what could happen. Let's look at the nearest hospital. Like, it shouldn't be embarrassing, but it's gotten easier, right? But, the first time, like, I had to like pull like all my roommates aside, for example, and be like, hey guys, like, God, I hate doing this because this seems really embarrassing. I hope it never happens. But if it does, like, do you guys mind like all sitting down? Like, let's just go over this real quick, how to take it apart, how to hit me, where to hit me. I don't need you stabbing me like in the head or anything like that, but here's where you need to hit it. And so, yeah, it shouldn't be this way. And I think that's just how, like, at least that's how I am, right? Like, guys tend to be in general, like, in terms of like asking for help. For me personally, I guess, I was, I'm a little bit embarrassed, right? Because I kind of feel like I'm kind of weak, which is stupid. And I know that's not the case. And my therapist will tell me that's not the case. But from my perspective, anytime I have to ask for help or be extra prepared because of, a hindrance because of me, I don't know. I mean, I just kind of feel like I'm the one that's causing everyone not to have fun, or I'm the one who's causing everyone to change their diet, or I'm the reason we can't have, a big juicy steak, or we have to be extra cautious. We have to take all these extra, you know, preliminary steps to make sure that nothing happens to me. So it shouldn't be this way, but I do feel, a little bit embarrassed sometimes. That being said, the more I talk about it, the more I've come on this podcast, the more like my friends and stuff have been around it. Especially for like these trips, like, at the end of the day, when we all are talking, that is something that kind of comes up. They're like, hey, did you make sure you ate this? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, did you make sure you didn't touch this? And I'm like, yes, like I'm good. They'll even bust out like a Lunchable and be like, is it okay if I eat this in the same room as you? And I'm like, nah, man, you're good. You're good. They're like, well, what if it's on like the same? And I'm like, nah. I'm like, it's going to be okay. You're allowed to eat, cheese and crackers. So, the support's always been there. It's just a mental hurdle of like getting over the fact like that, hey, yeah, this is something that you deal with, but it's nothing to be embarrassed about. So the support has always been there. It's just that mental hurdle of being like, hey, just because you have, this allergy, that's really scary doesn't mean you have to be ashamed to kind of talk about and have like a prep plan. So
I think like that's a huge thing about asking, or not so much asking, telling people what you need, because if you have that in your head the whole time, you're focusing on that and you can't experience the trip. So telling
yeah,
people what you need ahead of time, as awkward as that was the first time, I mean, I think now you're very comfortable telling people what you need, because like if you don't tell them what you need, you're in big trouble, and you're in big trouble
right.
by yourself. And if you're just gonna be in trouble by yourself, then why bring other people? You can wander around in the woods and be dangerous and sketchy all you want, you know and I think your friends, what I found too is like, when I've kind of flipped the switch and been like the support for people on like endurance races and things like that, instead of being in the race, you're there as a support part of the team. And it's tricky. People don't tell you what they need until it's kind of too late. And so after you do it a couple times, you realize, okay, when you come in, you're going to be like on empty. You're going to need electrolytes. You're probably going to need shade. You're going to want some time to just sit quietly and decompress. But it's hard to have those conversations with, especially other males in those situations, or friends that not like your best friend, but they're good friends that have come along with you and like to do things together. Just simply telling them what you need, it's a step, it's a big step off the ledge. So that's really cool that you
Oh
had
yeah.
that conversation with them and they were receptive too. I don't think anyone's going to look at that and be like, dude, that's too much. If that's the case, that's probably someone you don't want to go out in the backcountry with, maybe,
Yeah, no, they wouldn't
So
be. Yeah,
really
they
cool.
wouldn't be getting the invite.
I think that's a great point to drive home, Bennett, is that, it is hard to feel like a burden, but once you get that out, it feels so much better that you can let go and enjoy yourself. But then also, Taylor, it sounds like most of your friends have been really, really supportive. And I think that's the case more than not. Like when we surround ourselves with people who care about us and who love us, they want to help you have a good time. They want to be a part of making it possible for you to get back out there. So it's hard to do that though. It's hard to step up and make yourself vulnerable. I like that Bennett said step off the ledge because that's what it feels like a little bit. But
Yeah.
then once you do, then everybody can have a better time. And I also think it helps everybody feel like they're a part of making your life, I'll say normal again, even though, we know it's going to be different no matter what, but helping you enjoy the things that you used to enjoy.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing too, right? Is like, thank God, like, I was able to kind of, and it was a group effort, right? But thank God, like I was able to work up the courage because like, obviously had everyone would have known just because everyone was aware that I was going to the hospital, a decent amount going to the ER. But thank God, like I was like, I had the courage to tell people like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, first couple months I was telling them, look, I'm kind of scared for my life, and to like see kind of like how that, little baby step of courage and little baby step of just kind of counting to three and just kind of being like, you know what, I'm gonna be vulnerable here to everybody. and like say like, no, I can't go to this restaurant, I can't do this, and this is why, because this is what happens, you know. And being willing to like be vulnerable and tell people that, it's been cool to see, you know, just how many people like have rallied sort of around that. And I can think like, you know, one of my first really bad reactions, I mean, a lot of the guys that are actually going on this upcoming hunting trip with me here in 2 weeks, out to the ranch, like they were all there, and I vividly remember me laying on my couch at like 3:30 at night after I've been discharged, and like all 5 guys were like standing around the couch around me, and they're like, hey, you know, we're gonna spend the night here, we're gonna watch you. And I'm like, no, like I'm good, I'm discharged, like it's good. And like every single one of those guys sat in the ER. You know, we're driving back and forth to my house, letting my dog out, like talking with my parents, like keeping everyone in the loop, you know, going above and beyond. And like just to see that, and now like have people reach out, you know, before we're going on these hunting trips and being like, hey, I'm going to go to the store and get this and this. Can you please confirm that every single one of these ingredients is safe? Like, I want to buy this for you. I want to do this trip completely Alpha Gal friendly because it's for you, and we all want to kind of be in it with you. And that all happened because I was like, you know what? F it. Like, I'm going to be vulnerable. Here's where I struggle, you know, in the woods. This is what I'm afraid of. And yeah, everyone was just like, no, that's okay. Everyone struggles with something. Like, here we are. We're here to help you. And like, it's been cool to see like just how connected everyone kind of gets, you know. Obviously, like going out there and just feeling like, you know, you have people around you that truly care and that are willing to go the extra mile it's big, and it makes doing the things I used to love doing, you know, not that scary anymore.
And less scary for everyone else too, because I don't think anybody wants to carry you out of the woods.
No,
they'd rather
God,
carry
no.
something that you guys shoot.
That's right. That is spot on.
So true. So true. And it's inspiring to hear that, you know, and I think it just goes back to, you know, we always should be our own advocate, even when it's scary to do that. And, you know, the people that love you are going to rally with you, and the ones that might attempt to feed you pork and see if you really react to it might not need to go.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's a great thing to, you know, to drive home. So I love it. I love it.
I do too. And so many great tips here. Like really the extra grill grate, that is so brilliant. And I think that applies like not just to going out in the woods either, right? Like that's, you know, grilling in your backyard, that's camping with the scouts. That applies to a lot of people. And it's something that would be easy to just overlook. So thank you for sharing all these tips. I think so many of them are just going to make it life easier for people to get back out into the woods.
That's right. And Method Soap, if you're listening, it's the only soap Taylor uses.
That's right.
All right. I'm so excited for this series. I think we're going to probably wrap this one here. We have so many topics to dive into with you, Taylor and Bennett. We're just really, really excited for this series. So thank you both for being here with us today.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you guys.
Until next time. Thank you for joining us today on In the Tall Grass. Visit us at 2alphagals.com. That's TWO alphagals.com. Or you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at 2alphagals. If you enjoyed listening, please leave a review and help us grow this community.
We're all faced with obstacles on our journey, whether it be food allergies or tick-borne diseases. You might outgrow the reactions, but you won't outgrow the person you become. Ticks suck, but life doesn't have to.